Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm working on the next thing I need to mount inside the airplane is my gascolator, and this one is actually going to use an aluminum mount, so I could have waited. I could have waited until I got kind of everything done and then drilled the holes. I was mostly trying to get all the wood components installed so that I can get the fuselage varnished with urethane. But I'll show you what I'm up to and what my plan is. The way this particular gascolator works is the through holes are actually here, and this one gets plugged, but I'm actually this is the inlet, which is on the mount side, which I find like really interesting, but then I realized that it's actually designed to mount to a firewall, so it makes total sense. This mounts to the firewall, and this would be going through the firewall, so that's not a big deal. Mine's mounting to the side of the fuselage, so what I have to do is plug this hole. This will be my outlet, this is my inlet, and so I have to build a bracket that will allow me to have this fitting on the backside. So what I'm doing first is I'm just making a template of this so that I can so I have a reference point of what size this is. So I've made a template, and then I took a couple of 1032 screws and I just pushed them in there and put some force on them so that I could actually see where it was indenting my cardboard. Had a couple of indentions where I put a couple center marks on, and so now I'm just going to cut this out so that I can kind of go to the next step. And let me go grab a knife here. All right, so I'll get this cut from here. Right. All right. Now that I've got that, I'm going to mark the location of this, where the fitting goes. So I'll mark that on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go about halfway between the edge of this and the where it mounts. So it's going to be about there and there. And then the distance that I'm going to come down, I'll measure that here. I just made myself a little mark with the Sharpie right there, so I'm going to come down about that far, and so that will be somewhere in this range. Just make a little mark there, and then we'll find the I'll just find the center here. We'll see how this came out. So it's about half an inch, and then about half an inch this way. Brings us right there. So inch apart. So this is the middle, and so now I just want to line up the middle, which is really close to where I've got my mark. So must mean I'm pretty calibrated. So then we'll come down. We'll just come down the sides here at that inch mark. Just come down here. Then we'll put a radius on the bottom. So about there. And then I'll just find something to radius that with. I think something like a socket should work out pretty good. So just line that up to the middle. And just a little radius here. Let me get mark here. So that gives me the mounting plate side. Okay, so what my intent is here, let's see if I can draw this for you, is basically I've got the gascolator here. It's the top portion of the gascolator, and this is the bowl down here. What I intend to do is I want the mount to go this way, so it's going to be like a U shape. So it'll come here and then back, and then it'll return back up. So, and I'll make that out of aluminum, basically be the same size here as it is here, and then that'll give us plenty of room we need plenty of room to get in here with a nut on the back side of it, and in here with a bolt or a nut on the other side coming from the outside of the fuselage, which is right here, and we'll just use some of those flush screws at the top. Probably mount this with 4 screws just so it doesn't move, and I think that will actually work out pretty good. So and it's got the drain on the bottom, and what I'll end up doing is I'll come down to a barb, and then I'll actually go down to a basically a Curtis drain of some kind that I can lock open underneath the fuselage. So then I'll just connect with a hose down to the Curtis drain, which will actually have to have a barb on the other side of it. So figuring out what that looks like right now, but the first thing to do is just kind of get this mount going. So yeah, I'll see how this works out. I'm gonna get a piece of paper and kind of make a scale drawing, and then we can go from there. All right. So I'm just going to set out a couple of nuts here, and if I have a couple of threads on both of those, plus a washer. Won't really need a washer on the back side of the aluminum, but I will need a washer against the fuselage. So I'll just give myself a little extra room. I think that's probably as wide as I need to go, except I need to know what the size of the elbow that has to go on the back of that is. So let's research that real quick. I believe what we have is a quarter-inch so it's going to be something like this, is what I'm going to end up using on the back side. So now I just need to find out what size this is. This one fits a 3/8 hose. So all right, so I need at least 1 inch spacing in between, which for that to fit fine, and that actually works out good because that gives me plenty of spacing on these nuts and have room for a washer as well. And then what I'll try and do is where it's mounting to the wall, try and keep those nuts out of the way. I don't want the barb to interfere with the nuts, so it won't. It should be right in the middle between these two, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I have to be honest. I'm asking myself, or I'm actually telling myself that this is probably not a good idea until I actually get the barb. So I am going to put that in my order that I'm picking up Saturday from Spruce, so that I can have that on hand, take some actual measurements, make sure everything is going to clear, and I don't have any frustration or aggravation later. So for this part, we're going to set this aside for now and come back to it after I have that part. So stay tuned. All right, so since I'm gonna go out to Aircraft Spruce tomorrow, I've ordered what I need to continue working on the mount for the gascolator. I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna get my plane out and start shaping this leading edge. So I'll get what I need to do that, and we'll continue. All right, so the first thing we got to do is just get a good center line on here, and we are 1.25 inches. So that's 5/8 to the middle. So it puts me right there, and then I'll set my set this so that I'm riding right down the middle. Let's test it here. Just going to both sides. That looks really good. Yep. And then I'll just drag it along here. Start off with like a 45 degree on the side here, and I may need just a little more. Just a touch. right, now that I've got the basic shape, like so, I will actually take my sandpaper and I'll be working it like this. Alright, so you can see that we're starting to get a nice round shape. The thing that I like about this particular method is that as long as you can see the line, you know that you haven't gone far enough. So it's not quite round, it still has a flat spot right in the middle, so you just keep sanding like this. Working your way down until everything is nice and round, and that's not something that I'm sure it's not something you want to watch me sit here and do. So that's what we look like at the moment. It's looking good. So not a problem. I think when I do the stab, however, I will more than likely put some facets on the leading edge using the table saw before I get this far, so that I don't have to do quite so much with this tool. Did a little bit with the file, mostly across the glue lines. Works really good for that. So yeah, used a bigger plane. I used the small plane. When things got a little bit finer, I used the file, and of course some nice sandpaper always helps this process. So the next thing we'll be doing once we get this part completed is we'll be moving on, and we'll actually be, let me scoot it down here, we'll actually be working on the locations for the hinges. So here you can see put these two together. We'll be working on the hinge locations, which you can see from here. It's basically right at this spot and right down here, so it'll get a hinge. Whoops, dropped the pin there. So the hinges are basically in those two locations, one there and one down there. Of course, they're centered up on this member like so, and we'll be cutting slots for that, and there'll be enough space for the pin, plus about a 1/16 of an inch with a 32nd on either side, which creates that 1/16 of an inch gap. And so that's for next time. We'll complete finishing up the leading edge there. We'll start working on the hinge installation. Got the hinges ready for the rudder pedals, so we can get the rudder pedals mounted to the floorboard. So we'll have that we can do, and a whole host of other things. So I'm definitely not wondering what's next. It's pretty much laid out in front of me at this point. So yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with me. When I get the parts tomorrow, we'll be able to continue on the gascolator installation, and we'll get that going at the same time while we're working on this stab and rudder. And yeah, so hey, I'll catch you later.